Why would you sell your property now with the election coming up this Saturday and winter is looming? We're going to talk to you guys about when is the best time to get your property on the market.
The question on everyone's lips, Liberal or Labor, who's going to win and how does it matter with real estate agents? Yeah.
Well, it does. It does matter, doesn't it? Elections coming up, obviously, this Saturday. We've been hearing lots and lots about it. And no matter who you're batting for,
Liberal.
there is there is a lot of conversations being had at the moment, Mark, with sellers. And they're like, oh, we might just wait until after the election, but then we've got winter coming up. I think it's important to note that the seasons actually don't have anything at all to do with the property market. A lot of that just goes on inside people's minds. We've seen some phenomenal sales that have taken place throughout the winter period. And funnily enough, the weather that takes place in Sydney during winter often is better than in summer when it can be quite stormy and windy. But the weather and the temperature actually has nothing at all to do with the property market.
I think people selling you sort of sometimes look for excuses and you're like, that's a good excuse. Won't do it because of the elections or whatever. But
Yeah.
with interest rates, elections, all that stuff, sentiment gets pre-built in. And I think people work in their backstops of what's going to happen with Liberal, what's going to happen with Labor. So I think a lot of that sentiment's already pre-programmed. So when there is a result, it's Saturday night.
It's happening on Saturday. Well, we've all got to vote on Saturday.
Night, I think.
So we'll find out Saturday night.
So, what happens on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, the months, weeks, years ahead is a lot of that's already pre-programmed into us already. So it's not like a big whoa of a shock.
But look, the reality is there's always something going on,
Always.
right? There is always something. We had all the interest rate hikes that were taking place.
Yeah.
So, a lot of people saying, well, that's not a great time to be selling. Then, we've had wars, we've had pandemics. And when we talk about this sort of stuff often, Trump and everything that's been going on in America and, the stock market. And, if you're waiting for all the stars to align, like, good luck, guys, seriously, because if it's not an election and it's not winter incoming, there is always something going on. But what we're always watching as real estate agents are the stock levels. You'll hear us talking about that a lot.
Days on market
And stock levels. So we track that kind of data. And when we look at that, and I know, Mark, you were saying this morning when we were doing what's the property market doing in 15 seconds?
Yes.
And we couldn't talk about stock levels today. But the reality is, Mark said, don't talk about the stock levels for once. But the reality is that if you go on to realestate.com or Domain and you actually tap in Northern Beaches and have a look at what those stock levels across the Northern Beaches look like, they've dropped a lot. I think I checked a short while ago and they were sitting, as in today, and they were sitting at about 725 properties.
Pretty low.
Now, that's low.
That's low.
That's
There's
low.
105,000 properties in Northern Beaches. That's low.
It's low. And not only that, the days on market. So over the last couple of weeks, I've found a lot of stock has been moving. And some of that stock didn't move quickly, but it moved suddenly. And by that, I mean, it was stock that had been sitting around on the market for a considerable amount of time. And then one buyer walked in and boom, it was sold that afternoon.
Yeah.
What I'm finding as well is the days on market for apartments, they're flying out the door.
Yep.
I sold a property late last week. It hadn't hit the portals, which we'll talk about in a moment. And that sold within 48 hours quickly for phenomenal money. So when's a good time to get your property on the market if you've got an election around the corner in winter? What do you reckon?
Now.
Yep.
Because it does take, it's not like it takes, there's preparation as well. So by the time you're on, the election's going to be over.
Yeah.
And I think ideally with what the result's going to be, like, these, whether it's Liberal or whether it's Labor, I think there's so much momentum in there that they just
So
no one's going to wreck
I
it.
chat GPT'd this. So I put into chat GPT when there's an election incoming, historically, when has been the best time to sell? And this is what chat GPT said. If you want maximum buyer competition and best price, historically, it's better to sell either before election campaigns begin or just after the election once certainty returns.
Here we go.
Unless you're in a booming market with very low stock.
What market are we in, you reckon?
Oh, I'd say I would say if those stock levels don't come up, and I'm not confident that they're going to, I don't think we're going to see a significant increase. We're seeing huge amounts of buyers now starting to come through properties. We got smashed again today. I'd say we're actually turning now from a buyer's market into a seller's market.
Ooh.
What do you think?
Well, with the seller's market comes good capital growth, which is interesting.
We're right for that, though.
I've been
We're
saying,
right for capital growth.
absolutely. I've been saying
Yeah.
this for 12 months.
Yeah.
I track the rolling average of 10 years in our suburbs. What I mean by that is if it doubles, that's 100%. If it's 120%, it's done double and a bit more. If it's 80%, it hasn't doubled in 10 years. And I'm watching units, they haven't doubled in 10 years. They should have. So they're sitting at about 80%. I'm looking at houses, they've done 120% in 10 years. They've overperformed.
Yeah.
So I'm still saying I think it's a terrific time to be buying strata units. And I think the market's just going to keep going. But look, as a seller, I think people have, sure, hold on a little bit more because there's going to be some capital growth for selling for strata units because I don't think I know they haven't done the 10-year double.
People are building.
People
are
That's a
building.
big thing.
We're not seeing big apartment blocks going up anywhere.
Nowhere.
Anywhere across Sydney. So, we've just been actually chatting with a client who is in that development sphere. And he was saying, like, there's just, the cost of building is so expensive.
It's intimidating.
So that strata stuff, Mark, today I just sold a 1-bedroom apartment in DY for $850,500.
That's such a big. Which one?
It's huge. Delmar.
How much?
850, 500.
Wow.
Just sold this afternoon. Like that, that's for a 1-bedroom apartment.
Yeah, on a Pittwater Road.
It's crazy
On
that it was
Pittwater Road.
facing Pittwater Road.
Pittwater
That's
Road.
exactly right.
That's big money.
Massive money. So, and here's the thing. I mean, these properties, those apartments, when they're priced accordingly, they're even when they're not. I just sold a 2-bedroom apartment last week. That was one of my pre-markets, and that was a 2-bed, 1-bath. It had 2-car parking, but that sold for $1.2 million. $1.2 million.
I remember the going jokes that one day 1-bedroom units will be $1 million.
We're here. We have arrived.
I was like, are you serious?
It's
$1
true.
million
Yeah.
for a 1-bedder? We're there.
It's true. So, guys, if you're watching this and you're thinking, I'm just going to wait after the election, I'll get my property on the market, but then we've got winter, get your property on the market.
Yes.
The great thing, and this is not like an advertising plug for what we do at Novak, but we put together a $0 marketing strategy for vendors that were sitting on the fence going, I just don't know if I got the right price, I would probably sell now. Otherwise, I'm going to hold off until spring, which, by the way, I think selling in spring is just ludicrous in many respects. They call it the spring selling season because all the stock hits the market in spring. And the last thing you want to be doing is selling when there's a whole lot of competition. You want to sell when you're in isolation, when there's not a lot of stock around. That's when you're going to get great money for your property. But the $0 marketing strategy allows you guys to get your property on the market. We don't ask you for any marketing money. We say, give us nothing. We're going to get your property out to our database, which works.
Have a go.
Just try it. Works.
Have a go. Choose your agent. Off you go. Choose Novak and all the beaches. Have a go.
That's
doesn't cost you any money. And then
we pay for the professional photos.
Yeah. I also like calling it price discovery.
Yeah.
Because sometimes the catalyst to selling is actually, if I get that price, I'll sell it. But then you talk to your agent, they go, give me $7,000. You go, don't worry about it. But with the $0 marketing on the market, wow, that's a great offer. I'll release the property.
And but we actually put that strategy together because there was nothing out there in the marketplace A lot of agents say, look, give me $10,000 in marketing, and nothing against vendor paid marketing, nothing against the real estate portals. We'll use them all the time. But this is an opportunity for you if you're a seller and you're like, you know what, guys, if you've got a buyer and you can get me this price, then I'm a seller. So it gives you that opportunity. Signboard included, professional signboard.
Yeah.
Professional photos included.
Yeah.
Out to our social media, which is phenomenal. Obviously, there's a lot of eyeballs there, and out to the database as well.
Database.
Actually, hey, I just want to say something about an agent that I heard something the other day.
Go.
I had a client call me. She was getting a few appraisals, and she called and she goes, okay, just want to hear like what your thoughts are. The other agent that I've spoken to, she's got a 2-bedder in DY. And the other agent said, well, you need to spend $30,000 on renovating and $12,000 on marketing. What do you think about
the unit value?
$850,000.
Yeah, it's dumb. But people do. People will do that.
Like
the people
what?
do that.
Sorry, what?
It's dumb.
Sorry. Okay, listen. If
it's not necessary. It's overkill.
It's not necessary, guys. The only reason you go and spend money on prepping your property for market is to make money. It's not to like just come out cost neutral. $30,000 to do a kitchen and a bathroom in an entry-level 2-bedroom apartment in DY is ludicrous, as is $12,000 in marketing. Ludicrous.
Yep.
Ludicrous.
Yep. You know what? I've always been a fan when people zig, you zag. And I think that traditionally, and I've said it in my career, people are like bears. They hibernate through the winter period and they get active in the summer period, literally. So I've always loved that if you decide to sell in winter or around an election when you're really not sure, shouldn't, don't know, I love actually getting the property in the market to sell because, there's mouths there to feed. Pete, there's buyers, heaps of buyers in the last weekend. You saw what that was.
Oh my God, it's been
heaps.
Yeah, it's been
like we're getting some really good prices at the moment. So I think in short, to answer, would you be selling in winter and around a federal election? Absolutely. And the prices are good. But you know what the big thing is? It unlocks you to the next phase of what you want to do. The whole intention of selling that property is to unlock you to go and do something else, whatever that may be. Wherever, get rid of debt, move on to the next property. It unlocks you and you move on next.
We forgot about a really big factor.
What?
Interest rates.
Beautiful.
Okay, so guys, a lot of people are saying, again, a lot of sellers that I'm talking to, they're like, we're just going to wait for those rates to come down, then we'll get our property on the market. I get it. But, a lot of that activity with the buyers is actually happening now. That activity is happening now where the buyers are going, oh, we know those interest rates are coming down. We get how this is going to pan out. We are here. We're ready to buy now. And they're paying the big money, $1.2 million for a 2-bedroom apartment in DY, $850,500 for a 1-bedroom apartment in DY. We were selling 2-bedroom apartments for $850 not that long ago.
No.
It's happening now. The activity is happening right now.
And also, I think you've got to remember, people forget about this, in what world is interest rates going down good?
No, I know.
Because people are like, I can't wait till the rates come down. And it's like, hang on a sec. The reason the government reduces the rates is because the economy is shit.
Yeah.
So it's like, I really hope the economy is shit so I can pay less interest rates. It's like, now the economy is shit, employment gets harder, inflation. So it's careful what you wish for.
It's the balancing act.
It's a balancing act.
It's the balancing act.
And I think if you were, say buyers are right, okay, rates going down will help them borrow money.
Yeah.
Well, then they're going to pay more in 6 months' time. So buy now.
Not only that, I think I just want to quickly touch on that low to medium density stuff as well, because we ran a big information night on that was really successful. The community loved it about 4 weeks ago. And we've had heaps of people that have reached out to us going, oh, we're thinking of selling, we've got that perfect site. We've got, an old house that's sitting on that block. But the reality is, a lot of those vendors, they're not going to sell for anything other than good money.
Yep.
And then you add on to that the cost of building and materials and funding, and then you've got to make a profit. So I haven't seen that sort of stock flying out the door, actually. Have you?
Not at all.
No.
You know what? It's been Feb 28 when you could start lodging against it. Mid-Feb is when I got introduced. April, March. In like 3 months, and I haven't seen like, oh my God, that's sold, that's sold, that's sold, that's sold. There hasn't been a flurry.
No.
So, guys, you know, you may all think you made a fortune or you could develop shit out of an area. Not really. Not really.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. And I'm not confident that it's going to solve the housing crisis.
No,
I think that was the
that's
whole
the biggest
reason that the
reason
government was
introduced.
doing it,
Yeah.
was to solve this housing crisis. I'm not sure about that. And nor am I sure about stopping foreign buyers. Like that, I actually quickly read something early on about Harry Triguboff had written, I love his stuff that he writes. He just tells it how it is.
Bang.
But he was writing something about, yeah, like something a bit tongue in cheek, like, well done, government. That's definitely going to be the solution for the housing crisis, like stopping the international buyers. I agree. I just think,
But that's assuming the international buyers are not investors. You know what?
They're still around, by the way. There's plenty of. I'm going
to say, if I'm going to be political, the landlord, the governments, whether Liberal or Labor, more Labor, have just annihilated, assassinated landlords for 20 years now. They've throttled them. Why does that matter? They are the farmer. The landlord is the farmer.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They're supplying
it's
the
so
crop
true.
for people to eat. They're supplying rental properties for tenants to rent. And they're wondering why there's no rental properties around. But they've hammered it. So, you know,
rentals are hard. Like how many we're managing over 2,000 properties.
Yeah.
You know, we manage a huge amount of property on the northern beaches.
One of the biggest.
And at the moment, how many properties have we got for rent?
13.
13. Usually we have about 45, guys.
Yep.
We have 13 properties, and they come on and they get rented as quickly as what they're coming on.
And the rental spread's incredible. So what it was rented for to what it does get rented for on a typical 1 or 2 bedroom unit, we can see $200 McDonald's.
And I get it if you're a tenant. I get it. I get that those rents have gone up. I get that it's tough. I get that it's hard trying to find something. We hear you. We understand. But it's been equally as hard, probably even harder, for that landlord. When you look at things, Mark, like land tax and the interest rates hammered, and all the legislations that came in.
Yep.
It's hard. Like we see it from both sides.
Probably shouldn't say this if your landlord don't sell.
Yeah.
You're getting some beautiful rents coming through. Beautiful. And if you're considering buying, like buy a rental property,
depends what you want to do when you sell that asset.
Property at the moment, an investment property, right? Your rates are going to come down and your rent's going to go up. That's the perfect storm.
Yeah.
So landlords should be jumping in. They really should be jumping in.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that gap is closed now. We are seeing a lot more investors back in the marketplace.
Not enough.
We are definitely starting to see more investors back in the marketplace.
Perfect storm.
And listen, first-time buyers, you know, I think if anything out of this whole election, first-time buyers are definitely going to be the winners. They really are. The only thing is that entry-level price now for an apartment has jumped. It has jumped, and it's gotten hard. So, but I do think that the first-home buyers are going to be the winners, no matter who gets in from that election. Have we got any comments?
Maybe. So, in summary, let's have a look. Any comments, anyone?
Anybody?
Anyone? Can't see. So, in summary, would you sell now? Why sell now? Winter. Why sell now? Winter and the federal election. Why? Why would you sell now?
Stock level. It's just, this is a supply versus demand game.
In summary,
this is all this. It has nothing at all to do with the weather, and it has nothing at all to do with the election. I get that people, you know, they feel more confident post an election, depending on which government gets in. But the stock levels, the numbers do the talking. Stock levels low, buy and demand high, good time to sell. The other way around, not a good time to sell. That's it. It's that simple. Supply versus demand. You?
Get it done. Just get it done. You know, if you're going to do it in 3 months' time, It's going to be something else. There'll be something going on in America. There'll be
Yep.
something going on with the dollar. There'll be something going on. So it's like, just get it done, and it allows you, it unlocks you to go to the next thing you wanted to do. So I think just get it done. And we're seeing, great, like days on market are lower. So, from when it hits the market,
Yeah.
sells
That
are
is
lower.
for sure.
Stock levels are
Yep.
lower.
Yep.
Interest rates are coming down. And the talk about it is good enough. It's good enough. It has an impact.
Yep.
So just get it done.
And not only that, it depends what you are going to do when you sell your property, because everyone wants to be a seller when the market's hot, but no one wants to be a buyer when the market's hot. So, if you're selling your property in a hot market, you're going to be getting great money, but good luck trying to buy into that market. So the best time to do it is now. You just want to make sure that you don't miss that boat, because that market is heating up. We're seeing it.
Bottom line, people try to, really work real estate out. The bottom line is it's going to double in 10 years on the northern beaches. It just always has.
It always has.
Bottom line, right? Bottom line.
Yep.
And the bottom line is, when you put in $100,000, the bank will put in $400,000, and the bank will let you keep the capital growth and you keep the rent. It's clever. It's still a terrific investment.
Yep.
And look at what's happened with super lately. Some people have been absolutely throttled on their super.
Oh yeah.
I have to say, people don't know there's $3.5 billion sitting in Australian super. We are the trillion. We are the number one super country in the world per capita. Our pot of gold is number 2 in the world. How much we've got in our super? That 4 trillion.
Check your super statements.
Yeah.
Check your super statements. It happened to a friend of ours. Because we said, guys, you should be in a self-managed super fund. Buy some of these storage units that we've got. You set and forget. There's zero maintenance. It's a no-brainer. They all go up just like any other real estate does. And we said, speak with your accountant about setting up a self-managed super fund. And they were almost in tears. They're like, I can't believe it. I haven't actually checked my super since 2019, and I've lost $36,000. $36,000 of their super is vanished into thin air.
Doesn't happen with property.
Doesn't happen with property.
All the beaches property. But the whole super thing, if you want to sell your property, and this is what I've had a couple of clients do, how good's this? This is clever. They've said, Mark, I want to sell my property. And I go through, talk with them, why, this, that, and they go, we just really need to free up some cash. And I'm like, they sold their property that they owned in their name to their super. So they've got money sitting over there untapped, and they need to tap into that and sell that investment property, and they go zoop.
Wow.
Bye-bye.
There you go, guys. All right, we're off. We're going to